grab a chair, grab a beer, grab some popcorn. It's going to be a long one, folks.
Yep, grab your ass, grab your dad's ass, grab your friend's ass, because
A little bit of
Perez
grab
got out
ass.
of Q2,
Ooh, going straight
and
into it.
we're gonna go straight into it. It's disgusting. Uh,
Qualifying was kind of a shock. Paris out in Q2 was pretty shocking.
yeah, the way, I mean, just him talking on the radio, it was like he was so frustrated. He did
Yeah.
not know what was going on. I mean, the car obviously wasn't set up for qualifying as well as it should have been.
Yeah.
Maybe he just couldn't get it done. Maybe he was scared of getting a puncture with the razor blades that got on the edge of the track.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he blamed it on traffic or, being launched out at the wrong time, but
Yeah.
I think unfortunately, since it was just a new track for everybody, I think he just wasn't on it, and I think that's why he got out in Q2.
Well, I mean that's like pretty standard. Perez is like not really good qualifying and finished fourth.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard from him. He had a good race. Qualifying though, yeah, that was tough to watch.
Yeah.
It just seemed slow. And I mean, sure, he got out into traffic. He got out into traffic during the race too.
Yeah, the one surprising one was Gasly. He ended up climbing to the front. So just before qualifying started, there were some grid penalties because in qualifying, the reason I think Q3 ended was because Gasly had a puncture and his front wing just like ripped open on one of those curves.
Hmm.
And so the grid penalties came into effect. Bottas got a single yellow flag, so he got I think like 3 places, and then Verstappen had a double yellow, and so that's the reason he got 5 places. And I think Sainz was the only one that was after that was coming in that actually paid attention to the flag, so he ended up getting off scot free.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't talked about biggest winners, biggest losers in a while, but Gasly
Yeah,
and AlphaTauri in general,
yeah, they had a
probably biggest losers of the season right now,
yeah shit weekend, and
getting blown out.
it was weird because did you hear that radio where Gasly was just like, I don't know what happened. The car was just so slow today.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe somebody came around to a little tinkering. Uh, Maybe everybody else just figured it out
Yeah,
by Sunday.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it was a shame. I really think with Gasly and AlphaTauri, it came down to no, not even race pace, because he was holding on for a little bit. What was it? The pit stops, 2 pit stops.
Oh yeah, so he was initially one of the ones that was right off the bat on a two-stop strategy.
Yeah,
Everyone
and
I
then
think was originally aiming for a one-stop, but because those punctures happened, they all kind of opted for a two-stop. So they ended up just being faster at the end, way faster.
but it was an early 2 stop for AlphaTauri.
Was it like lap 10, 11, 12, something like that, right? It
Yeah, I
was
mean
like
it was
super
super
early.
early for the first one, and then it sent him in the back where they got into traffic, and they don't have the power to overtake, at least as fast as other teams.
Yeah.
And I mean, once you're stuck back, like if you're in front with like with a middle of the pack kind of car, you need to stay in the front for as long as you can.
Yeah.
I don't like that kind of strategy goes down well with a car that outpaces everybody.
Yeah. So going into the race then, was that one of the best race starts, do you think, in general this season?
Best race starts? No, I think the Mexico one was more fun.
Yeah.
I like any of the tracks that have super long straights and then right into those turns. This one was kind of middle of the pack, but in terms of separating the pace out, are you talking about best for like McLaren,
No,
Mercedes? Who are
just
you
there was a
talking about
lot.
like
There
the
was a lot. There
best?
was a lot going on. So Hamilton just took off.
Yeah, no, I mean
Alonso
he
and
was gone.
Gasly were just fighting for that position. It looked like they were both pretty slow, and then Verstappen just ends up jumping from seventh to I think he was in P4 already by that first turn. Um, and then just a few turns after that, after Verstappen's incredible start, Alonso was just defending. I don't think he realized Verstappen was on his outside, and he ended up kind of closing the door on Verstappen. But Verstappen reacted really well because that would have been an ending crash. That race would have been over for
Oh yeah.
Verstappen
Did you get to watch the camera of the front camera of Verstappen?
when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually think I had seen that.
It was really tight. I mean, it was close.
It shows you how
It's
fast those cars brake too, because he just
yeah, how
stopped.
fast they brake and how fast the drivers react to it.
Yeah,
Going 180 miles, 200 miles an hour through a turn, and then you get pushed wide or pushed in front of because somebody wants to take, the best. Oh, fuck, dude, my brain is scrambled.
Yeah, yeah, you're kind of all over the place. It's like we did really good in the first part, and now we've spent 3 minutes on
That's okay.
explaining a race start.
We'll get back to it.
Okay, so Bottas actually had a really bad start, which was really surprising. Actually, maybe not
I was
surprising.
gonna say surprising. That's classic Bottas to have a great qualifying and a bad start.
Yeah, he just fell down the order, and I think he ended up falling closer to Perez, and he might have even been behind Perez because Perez had a pretty decent start. And the reason I mention this is because, of course, it's Red Bull Mercedes fight. So that's what I was looking at. And so, I felt pretty bad for Bottas because I think he just had an all-around bad weekend.
I mean, the awful start's one thing, but coming down to just the ability to handle the race, every single time I see him have a bad start, he just struggles for half the race.
Yeah.
And then once the first pit stop's done, he's out in the open, fresh air. He's able to really, really run with it. But it's like every time, even when he starts first, it's like slow getting off the line. I don't know how to describe it.
No,
I've
yeah.
never driven a Formula One car, but it's like, how is everybody else getting so much more speed at the start? Are they just that faster in reaction, or is he just taking it too easy? I don't understand it.
That's what it must be. I think he's maybe just lacking on that department of going off. Someone else that had a really awful start was Sebastian Vettel. So they actually didn't really cover this anywhere, but he actually fell way back to I think it was P17, and he had started P10, and so that was pretty nutty because Aston Martin had a really good car, and he had that awful start. He was able to recover that at the end and end P10.
Yeah, he finished P10. Yeah.
But I mean, imagine if he would have had a good car, he probably would have finished right behind Lance Stroll in P7.
I think he's got a decent enough car. It's just when you start, when you're a midfield team and you start midfield and then get pushed back to the back, it's like you are fighting for every inch.
Yeah.
It's not like Mercedes where if they start P20, they'll be third place by lap 30.
By lap 30, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's tough. It's tough, and I felt bad for Vettel. I felt bad for Gasly. It's just like, man,
just a tough weekend for them.
Tough weekend. There's a lot of things. I mean, Gasly had a good recovery. Finishing in the points is. Oh no, he didn't even finish.
No. He finished
11th.
outside. Yeah, he finished outside the points. He had a pretty shit weekend because I think he started P2, and to not even be in the points, it's pretty nuts.
Holy shit.
That shows you how bad the strategy was at AlphaTauri.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of AlphaTauri, if we're going by terms of constructors, they just got blown out of the water.
Yeah.
It's going to take some DNF by the other teams to allow them to even get close to 5 again.
I wonder if we'll stop seeing the memes of Pierre Gasly carrying the AlphaTauri team on his back because he's no longer carrying them anymore.
We'll see. I feel bad. I feel bad for Tsunoda because didn't Tsunoda have good qualifying too? I don't remember what Tsunoda qualified, but I remember being like he looked really fast out there.
Yeah. I think it was just a pretty all around, pretty bad weekend.
Tsunoda qualified 8th.
Yeah, they bad strategy. They had bad strategy, and that's
honestly
just
embarrassing. The whole team Tsunoda. I mean, it's tragic, really.
The one battle that was so interesting throughout the entire time and had its roller coaster of emotions was Red Bull versus Mercedes. I think that was the most entertaining battle of all, and of course we're at the end of the season, so a lot of title fight going on, and Perez was starting originally in the back. Bottas got that grid penalty. Verstappen and Hamilton fighting at the front. I think they're the ones that kept it super interesting throughout the race.
But before we start on this topic, do you think that if Verstappen started P2, he would have been closer?
Oh, dude. He maybe wouldn't have not won, or maybe he would have had a chance, but
because he was 25 seconds behind.
Yeah,
the race
but that was because he spent so much time behind Alonso, who was definitely much slower than.
Well, in the race, once he got to P2, he was 3 seconds behind. So
Hamilton.
Yeah, he was 3 seconds. He was like 3.3, 3.5 behind Hamilton once he got to second.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I wanted to ask you because I don't think he had the pace.
Yeah.
I think Hamilton is going buck wild.
Yeah,
and he's showing us why he wants another title.
The crazy thing is they weren't even using this famous Brazil engine. So while Red Bull did look strong and Sergio Perez was able to make his recovery, they're not using that crazy engine that they used in Brazil.
Yeah,
So
but who said that? Was that Mercedes that said that?
yeah, so I think it hasn't been
It's like I do
confirmed.
not believe that whatsoever. He's like, yeah, my tires are gone. We're using an engine we found in the dumpster. Like, no, I have a feeling they're just saying that shit to mess with everybody.
Yeah, it could
It's
be.
part of the strategy.
I don't know if there's like regulations where you don't you don't have to disclose what you're doing and what you're using, but it was pretty insane the pace difference
Oh yeah.
from Hamilton because Bottas didn't have that same pace, but Hamilton did. He was insane.
Bottas held his own for a while.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
if
did.
we're talking about Perez and Bottas, it was a tight one. You know, they weren't too far off of each other, and until up the end, until the puncture. I mean, it was did Perez? He wasn't even in front of him until the puncture.
Until the puncture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that puncture just really, really just screwed both Bottas' races over. And I remember the guy saying, like, I think it was Crofty who was saying, all of his good work is becoming undone. And it was like, you just see the Mercedes, like, just scraping to pieces, like falling into the gravel. It looked like a clumsy kid out in the playground.
Yeah.
Just kind of like falling off
The
completely.
millions of dollars in carbon fiber just getting scraped off in a desert somewhere.
I was so surprised they like kept him in the race after that. So obviously he went in, they changed his nose, they changed his wheels, but they kept him in there, and eventually they did have to retire him, which has huge implications for the title fight because they weren't able to steal that fastest point, which I think
Well,
that's what they were going to try.
if we're talking about constructors wise, Red Bull is within 5 points now.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean they're 5 points off constructors, so one more bad race from either team.
And it's over.
I mean individual bad race, like if Perez has a bad race, finishes 10, I mean it's over constructors wise.
Yeah.
It is coming down for the World Championship and the Constructors Championship. I mean it's this is a crazy season for it to be this close.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the chat right now is that if Verstappen gets P2 win next Saudi Arabia and Hamilton gets 1, that means they're going to be going into Abu Dhabi with like a point or two apart.
Hmm.
So it's going to be decided in that last race, basically who gets that higher position. So that's pretty nuts.
So I want to ask you, how do you think they're going to stop Hamilton? How do you think Red Bull is going to come up with some crazy idea or crazy last two race technology to beat out Hamilton and the Mercedes engines?
Honestly, if the pace difference is this much, I kind of think it's over. I think the only way that Red Bull will win is if they just do if Mercedes does some really bad strategy, or something like a DNF puncture, something that just really destroys a race. Because at this point, Lewis and Mercedes are just way too fast, and I don't think Max can respond.
You think it's going to come down to dumb luck for these last?
Yes, for either team, it's
Yeah.
going to come down to dumb luck. Like maybe that happens to Verstappen. Maybe he gets a puncture and it's over.
I'm still waiting for the Verstappen Hamilton clash next race in 2 weeks, where they just destroy each other turn one, and then everybody's like, "Well, it comes down to this."
Yeah, and it'll be like a Senna moment where he literally just takes the person out because he's got the lead and he's like, well, I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna race if they're neck and neck, they're gonna race each other really hard.
Yeah,
But with the pace Hamilton's shown the past 2 weeks, from what, like you said, there's no chance. If this keeps up and they can't figure something else out, which I don't know what they're gonna do. That's why I wanted to ask you to see if you even had an idea. I
well,
just don't know what they're gonna do.
There's the protest going on right now. I think it's now officially been submitted. They're protesting Mercedes' wing. Red Bull is protesting their wing. They say it's got some kind of a flex technology to it. I don't think that's going to get very far because I think if they were really solid on that, they would have done something before.
Thing.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like it's just that Flex Seal guy is like spraying it before the race. This shit's gonna work.
The engineer at Mercedes was like, if there was one more layer of paint, Lewis would have passed that wing test. And I was like, man, shut up.
I doubt it. I watched the video of how they test it with that big, like, weird looking prong.
Yeah.
And they said it passed through without any, like, resistance. So
yeah.
They were trying to sneak one in.
I think they were trying to sneak one in too.
They had a great race anyway, so who cares? But yeah, they were definitely.
Yeah, they didn't get disqualified from the race, so. But yeah, I mean,
Wild.
Sergio Perez had really good damage limitation. From being starting P11 to ending in P4. Bottas obviously got that DNF. I think that was the best Red Bull could have hoped for.
Yeah.
I think that virtual safety car at the end ended up screwing him again out of a podium. And what I was thinking about is these last two races, Perez has been screwed out of a podium due to a virtual safety car. And imagine if he would have gone in with those extra, total of 8 points now from those two races. I mean, they could have been in the clear maybe for a
Oh,
constructors.
they'd be up constructors wise. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say in the clear, but they'd be up.
Yeah, they'd
Uh,
be up.
yeah, I mean, Perez does what he does best, man. It's time after time we see him this season start in the back, have a bad Saturday, and just perform well on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Get some crazy overtakes.
Oh, the battle with Alonso. That was one
Yeah.
of my favorite battles that I've seen this year. It was on like that top end of the circuit where it's like a bunch of wavy parts and they were just going at it wheel to wheel. That was one of my favorite battles so far of this season.
I was impressed Alonso could keep up. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
he was pushing that car with everything he had.
yeah,
There's no doubt in my mind.
yeah. That was really awesome to see for Orlando. Fernando
Alonso
is
Norris.
he's really still in it, and I think if he was given a capable car, he would 100% be fighting for podiums every weekend.
I mean, this is his first podium since 2014, so it might not be the car. Might just be, I'd like to see more consistency next season.
Yeah, between all the drivers, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that would be really good for as a spectacle.
Oh yeah.
That
Well,
was
new car.
Alonso's. Oh, I was gonna say that was Alonso's first podium since 2014. I think it was like something like 104 races
Yeah,
since
buddy.
he had a.
I just said that. Do you want to fight about it?
Oh, I completely must have phased you out.
No, it's okay. I mean, I guess this is a two-man team, and
And
you're not
sometimes
here to listen to me.
yeah. Another really good battle for this race, and I'm gonna say it again. One of my favorite races of the season, and you know why? It was a new
Best
circuit,
race.
so a lot of them didn't really have the good strategy. The tire drag was huge, so it forced a two stop. And night races are always just pretty sexy. So Ferrari McLaren, I think this battle is done with. I think Ferrari is just gonna take off. McLaren, I don't know what's happened, but they've been caught with their pants down.
Yeah, they've been falling off. I mean, the past 2 weeks we watched them make terrible moves, and this week, I mean, they didn't do awful. It's like they could have done way worse. But Ferrari finished sixth and seventh, just keeping that ability. It's like every single weekend, it's Ferrari, no matter what position they're in,
Yeah,
and they'll stay behind each other. Sometimes it's Sainz, sometimes it's Leclerc,
Leclerc. Yeah.
Leclerc, and they'll just flip back and forth.
Yeah, they've definitely been the most consistent, and I've actually been now seeing a lot of videos of people saying that they're going to be title champions next year, which, I mean, if it really does push the pack together, I think that's going to be a possibility.
Hmm.
But yeah, Ferrari was super consistent. Did you see that double pit stop that they did? I watched the highlight reel, and they didn't even show it, which is nuts because they stopped. I forgot what lap it was, but they both got off with like a 2.2 and a 2.4 or something like that pit stop, and they were right
Really?
after each other. It was nuts. I think old Ferrari would not be capable of pulling something off like that.
Dude, I gotta look back and watch that one. I didn't even see it.
Dude, when I was looking at it, I was nervous because Ferrari tends to fuck this stuff up. When they have something that's going to be interesting and aggressive, they just
Yeah.
completely drop the ball. Perfect pit stops. They took off. I think there was maybe like a slight mishap, but it was like honestly it was like nothing compared to basically doing a double pit stop. So
I mean,
um,
it's scary watching people do even with Mercedes, the back-to-back where they just like stack them up.
yeah,
Because one mistake from the first driver, or a nut doesn't go off, or the tire's a little too long to take on, or somebody
you're
doesn't get the
holding up
jack
two
up
people
right.
now.
Yeah, and whew, yeah, just the traffic jam in the pit lane. I'm
Yeah.
just wait. If that happens, I'm waiting for the FI to just throw penalties left and right.
Yeah, no, it was super badass. Unfortunately, Norris had a puncture. I think he easily could have finished ahead of the Ferraris. That would have, given them a good points haul, but then also knocked down Ferrari from getting more points.
Hmm.
But he had that puncture, set him back. I think he still finished P9. So he was still able to get something, but obviously not what he was capable of getting. And then Riccarido had his fuel issues, which I actually just saw a post race interview, and it ended up being a bug. Like he wasn't even having fuel issues, so they were just saving fuel for no reason.
Really, it was just like the electronics.
Yeah, so there was like a misreading. At least that's what he said in the post interview. Maybe now that they've looked at it, maybe there's a little bit more to look at. But
Yeah.
essentially, they were telling him the entire race, like literally from like lap 1 or 2, save fuel, go slower, lift and coast.
Yeah, no, I was watching it. I thought they didn't put enough fuel in. I thought they were like they just pulled a oopsies and said we didn't fill you up.
It's like when we're playing Project Cars and we forget to change the fuel load and we have to
Yeah.
make
No, I mean
a pit stop just for fuel.
it's pretty wild that somebody like a team this big and this competitive makes a mistake like that. That's pretty
Yeah.
nuts.
Well, what I'm thinking is, what if they're just trying to be conservative? Because, okay, let's say it wasn't a bug and they're actually running out of fuel and they run that car till it runs out of fuel. There's no way that's good for those engines.
Yeah,
And
but I don't know. It's not that bad.
I don't know. What if their cars are designed differently? And what if zero fuel means, something crazy happens to the
The car
car?
just explodes. It ejects the driver. Parachute pops out.
P1.
I mean, there's formula cars that are running out of gas, and I mean, it doesn't, the engine seizes up. There's probably some tubes and parts and stuff like that that has to be replaced, but
Yeah.
nothing wild.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm not an F1 engineer, but that was just kind of my thought on it.
I mean, I filled up my tires with air once before, like by myself, so I'm pretty confident in saying that if I run out of gas, it ain't gonna do much
We've changed the
damage.
pit stop in 3.3 seconds. We know what we're doing.
3.3. I mean, dude, that's a George Russell time right there. I don't know what you're talking about.
The pit stops were awesome. And actually, speaking of Williams, both of them had punctures. George Russell and
Yeah.
Latifi.
The amount of punctures this weekend was wild. Qualifying and the race. That's why I said razor blades, because I don't know how they designed it. And on Saturday, you'd think they'd go out after qualifying and like see why the hell these things are getting punctured. And I know it's maybe the track is just too rough. That's what happens with newer tracks. But this isn't a new track.
Yeah,
It's like
it's an
did they
old
put
one.
in new bumpers, new barriers? I just don't get it. I think that's crazy that wasn't addressed on Saturday. That's just dangerous.
Yeah,
That's dangerous for those drivers.
maybe
Imagine if
maybe
you're
they'll
fighting somebody and you get a puncture and just slam into the back of you.
maybe they'll address it for next season. Maybe they shave those down a little bit so they're not so aggressive. Because I mean, I saw like the close-up footage and they're literally just like spikes.
Yeah,
There's no other way
they're
to
like
explain it.
diamond tipped. I think they should double down. I think every track should be required to have their
Have those
bumpers.
bumps.
Just be like literal daggers for your tires so nobody can take cuts and corners.
Yeah, towards the end of the race, I know Alonso was being told stay off the curbs because he was
Yeah.
on a one stop and they were like, we're trying to make it through, so just stay off the curbs. And he was losing a lot of pace because of that.
I mean, I guess it's better than DNFing, but
Podium's always good. Someone I think that doesn't really get typical recognition because I think they've had a pretty garbage season is Aston Martin. I think they had, just like we talked about earlier, they had that good thing, and I want to give a shout out specifically to Lance Stroll because he held it in, man. He finished P6.
yeah, he held back 2 Ferraris near the end.
Yeah, so
That's awesome.
they were definitely doing really good. I think this is one where the Mercedes engine just performed really well. And that was just kind of a shock because, I'm used to seeing Stroll and Seb usually out of the points.
I mean, Stroll was point 0.7 seconds ahead of Sainz. One more, 2 more laps. You never know, but he held on. Mad respect. And Aston Martin, super cool team. Their merch is disgusting, though. Their merch is the ugliest thing I've ever seen, but
Yeah.
super cool livery on the car itself.
Yeah, that color is really nice. I kind of want an Aston Martin. When the Aston Martin safety cars come out, I get pretty excited.
Just go drop you 150K on a car.
Oh, not a big deal. My YouTube money.
My YouTube money. I'm hella rich. Yeah, by the way, this is sponsored by manscaped.com. Don't buy this shit though, it's way too expensive.
Yeah, unless they sponsor us, then buy their shit. But yeah, it was a super interesting qualifying. It was a super interesting race, and I think there's no way these next few races are going to be boring. There's going to be crazy stuff happening. I'm sure next race we're going to see some crazy crashes into the barriers.
Even if the race itself is boring, it's still going to be fun to see who, like Verstappen or Hamilton, will take it.
Yeah.
Even if one of them gets a wild lead, it's just going to be exciting to see that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning, and we'll catch you on the next race.